There was a note on the fridge this morning. Not unusual. She leaves those all the time. Milk, bananas, almond creamer, call the plumber. But this one didn't make sense. It was just 5 words. Find yourself. Don't follow me. The handwriting was hers, but the tone wasn't. The pen was the same one I keep in my drawer, the black gel one I refill religiously because I hate the way cheap pens scratch the paper. She never touches that drawer. She says my neat freak system gives her anxiety. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the note. Not because I didn't understand what it meant, but because I did. I opened the fridge out of habit. Empty. Not a single item. Not even the jar of olives she always said she hated, but kept around for aesthetic. Gone. Like someone cleaned the place out in a panic. But the wedding photo? Still magnet to the freezer. Us in Asheville, grinning like idiots, her hair catching the wind. I looked stupidly happy in that picture. Like I didn't know I'd be holding on to a stranger one day. And then my phone buzzed. It was her. Only one text. Henry, please don't do anything rash. This is not about you. I need this. Not about me. She said that after sleeping beside me for 3,162 nights. After folding my laundry in a way only she could. After telling me she wasn't built for a quiet life 2 weeks ago and laughing when I asked what that meant. That laugh. It's been living rent-free in my head. The kind of laugh you hear when someone's already gone and forgot to tell you. The worst part? I believed her when she said it wasn't about me. Because deep down, I've always known. I'm the guy women leave after they outgrow their early 20s. But what she didn't expect is that I was already filing the divorce papers before she packed her bags. And when she found out, when she realized I meant it, she didn't sound so enlightened anymore. She sounded scared. The front door was unlocked. Not wide open, not swinging in the wind like some dramatic movie scene. Just unlocked. Like someone left in a hurry but didn't want to admit they were leaving for good. The keys were still hanging on the hook we always argued about. The one she said ruined the minimalist aesthetic of the hallway. Funny. She hated the hook, but left the keys. I stood there in the doorway for hours, I think. Time felt strange. Like everything inside the house had already started adjusting to her absence. The air felt drier, the silence louder. Even the damn floorboards didn't creak the same. I checked the bedroom. Closet half empty. Not fully cleaned out. No? That would have been easier, more honest. But this was worse. She left behind just enough to make it look like she still lived here. Like she might walk through the door any second, humming off key like she used to. There were still a few hangers swinging slightly, like they hadn't settled yet. And then I noticed it. Her journal, sitting on the nightstand. Open. She never left it open. I didn't mean to look. I swear. I know people say that all the time before they reveal some invasive thing they did, but I truly didn't. My hand moved before I gave it permission. Only one sentence was written on the last page. I'm doing this before he wakes up. That's when my chest started to tighten. That feeling where your ribs feel like they're turning to glass, where every breath sounds louder in your own head. So this was planned. She'd written that last night, while I was sleeping less than 3 feet away. Maybe while I was snoring. God, that thought won't leave me alone. She was deciding whether to destroy our life, while I was dreaming we still had one. But here's the part that really messed me up. She left behind the little stuffed jellyfish I won for her at the pier 5 years ago. The one she pretended to hate because it was ugly and lopsided, but secretly tucked next to her pillow every night. She left it perfectly centered on my side of the bed. And now I couldn't tell if it was a parting gift or a warning. I sat down beside it, not knowing whether to cry or scream. Instead, I reached for my phone and opened the email draft I never thought I'd send. The one I started after that fight about the hotel receipt she accidentally paid in cash. The one I told myself was just in case. Just in case she pushed first. She thought I wouldn't file. That I'd sit here like a puppy waiting for the door to click. That I'd wait for her phase to pass. She underestimated me. But as I clicked send, I wasn't smiling. I wasn't proud. I felt like a kid trying to win a war with a paper sword. And something tells me she hasn't even begun to show me what she's really capable of. I didn't even know she had a friend named Isla. The name popped up in a voicemail 2 days after she left. Not from Melissa, not even from Isla herself, but from my stupid cell phone carrier's transcription service. I was deleting junk when I saw it. Hey, Callie, it's Isla. I know you're probably halfway to the cabin by now, but I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. You're doing what so many of us are too scared to do. Don't let him guilt you. Just remember why you started, okay? I didn't even need to listen to the message. The preview alone winded me. She told her friend. Not me. Not only that, she apparently gave her a play-by-play of the whole thing, enough for Isla to be proud of her. What was she proud of exactly? For vanishing without telling the man she married where she was going? For leaving behind her wedding ring like a dead bug on the bathroom counter? No, that's too simple. This wasn't just Callie running away. This was curated, prepped, framed. I wasn't losing my wife. I was being cast as the reason she had to flee. And that thought, that made me panic. Because now I wasn't just a sad husband being left behind. I was an obstacle in whatever narrative she was about to write next. I called her. Twice. Straight to voicemail. Texted her a dozen times. Nothing cruel, nothing angry. Just things like, did you take your meds with you? Are you okay sleeping without the noise machine? The cat keeps pawing at your closet. No answer. But Isla responded. It was midnight when I got the message. One sentence. No greeting. Stop harassing her. She doesn't owe you closure. Closure. As if I was some bad date she blocked after a bad kiss. I sat there in the dark, reading that sentence over and over, the glow from my phone painting the room in this ugly shade of denial. I wanted to scream. Not because I was angry, but because I couldn't defend myself. These people, these strangers, they were rewriting my marriage like it was a bad story that only existed to empower her next chapter. I went downstairs, barefoot, no lights, no plan, just pacing. And then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The wedding album. On the coffee table. Open. I know, every part of this sounds made up. Too poetic to be real. But I swear to you, it was open to the photo of our first dance. My tie was crooked, her eyes were closed. Her hand was wrapped around mine like we were still kids who didn't know how hard the world could be. The page was creased. Not just from use, from being pressed. From being folded so tightly, it left a permanent scar down the middle of the photo, cutting me and her clean in half. And that's when I realized what this was. She didn't just leave. She wanted me to be confused, to feel abandoned. Because if I looked pathetic enough, if I acted like the clingy, spineless man she painted me as, then no one would ever question why she left. They'd all nod and whisper, yeah, I get it. He seems like the type. I could almost hear Isla saying it already. But here's what Callie didn't plan for. I may be the type who waits too long, but I'm not the type who disappears quietly. She wanted a villain? I was about to show her one. I don't even know why I opened her iCloud. I hadn't checked it in months. Not since we got the new phones and she told me, let's keep things separate this time. Too many syncing issues. I didn't argue. Honestly, I was tired of the little battles. If she wanted tech independence, fine. But we never unlinked the old shared email. The backup address. And I guess she forgot. That's how I found it. A photo. Not racy. Not scandalous. Not something I could send to a lawyer and say here, look. No, it was worse than that. It was quiet. A photo taken at golden hour, somewhere wooded. A cabin porch. 2 mugs on the railing. Her legs, unmistakably hers, stretched out on a chair, barefoot, sun catching her skin. She looked peaceful. Not posing. Not filtered. Just gone. Mentally and physically elsewhere. But that wasn't the part that broke me. There was a man's elbow in the frame. Just barely. Not holding her. Not touching. Not anything I could prove. Just there. Cropped like a ghost. Enough to make me feel crazy. Not enough to do anything about it. And here's the thing. I stared at that photo for nearly 15 minutes, zooming in like a lunatic, trying to read into every pixel. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, but from recognition. That elbow, the shirt, the watch. It was Jeremy's. Her coworker. Her gay best friend who, and I quote, has a crush on my boss, so relax. I never had an issue with him. Never suspected anything. We even played fantasy football together for 2 seasons. I drank with him at her Christmas party. I helped him move. And now I was pretty sure he was sipping coffee with my wife on a cabin porch she didn't even tell me existed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I just sat on the floor of the kitchen, phone in hand, staring at the microwave clock blink 2:03 a.m. like it was mocking me. I thought about sending her the photo. No message. Just the image. Let her explain. Let her twist. But something inside me said no. Because if I showed my hand too early, she'd control the story again. She'd gaslight me. Tell me it was old. That I was being dramatic. That it was just Jeremy, And how dare I assume? So instead, I forwarded it to myself. Saved it. Backed it up in 3 different folders. I'm not techie, but in that moment, I became an IT professional out of pure spite. Then I opened my notes app and started writing. Not texts, not a letter, a script. For what I'd say in court, what I'd say to her friends, what I'd say if anyone, tried to make me feel like I was overreacting again. I wrote down every memory, every timestamp, every half-lie she'd told over the past 3 months. The overlapping stories, the suddenly late work meetings, the weird hesitation when I asked if she wanted to go away for our anniversary, and she said, maybe next year. Let's not force things. Meanwhile, she was drinking cabin coffee with a guy who wears the exact same watch I helped pick out for his birthday. But the sickest part? I still missed her. That part they don't tell you about. How even when someone discards you like last year's phone charger, your body still craves them. Still pictures them beside you in the grocery line. Still saves a spot on the couch without thinking. I hated her, but I missed her at the same time, which made me hate myself more. But one thing had changed. I wasn't scared of being alone anymore. I was scared of what I might become with her. I didn't even plan to log in again. It was muscle memory, really, like reaching for your seatbelt or turning on the lights in a room you know is empty. Her laptop was still on the bookshelf, still closed, still covered in the same thin layer of dust that hadn't moved since she left. But something about that night made me open it. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was that I'd finally stopped hoping she'd walk through the door and started wondering what would happen if she didn't. I cracked the lid. It was still warm. Not literally, but it felt warm. Familiar. Like I could still smell her lavender lotion on the keys. She hated that laptop, always said it was too clunky, yet she used it every day without fail. Work, budgeting, meal plans, all of it. It was practically her second brain. I typed the password. It was still us 2020. Not freedom, not independent, not Jeremy, just us. Like some cruel joke. I didn't even smile. Just stared at the desktop as it flickered to life. The background still set to that picture of us at the lake. Me holding the camera with one hand, her kissing my cheek mid-shot. She never liked that picture. Said her hair looked frizzy. I loved it. It was the only one where we looked accidentally in sync. And then I opened her browser. Not to snoop, not exactly. I needed something. Anything. Some explanation. A crack in the wall I'd been slamming my head against for weeks. There were tabs still open. One was an Airbnb listing, a remote cabin, just like I'd seen in the photo. The booking confirmation was still in the email drafts, unsent but filled out. Jeremy's name wasn't listed, but the number of guests? 2. Another tab, a private Pinterest board titled Poststorm. Inside, mood boards, travel quotes, minimalist apartments, recipes for one. She was planning an entire life, not a break, not space, not a sabbatical, a life without me. And then I found the journal file. It wasn't hidden, just buried in a folder labeled taxes, like a trapdoor with a welcome mat on top. It was called the _unraveling. Docs, and my stomach flipped before I even opened it. There were 17 entries, each one marked by date. Not titles, just numbers. And every entry started with the same phrase. Today I remembered why I have to leave. I read the first 3 and had to stop. Not because they were angry, but because they weren't. They were calculated, gentle, even poetic, as if she was writing to herself, reminding herself that love wasn't enough. That comfort was a trap, that she was becoming invisible in a life that looked perfect on paper. She talked about watching me sleep and feeling nothing. She talked about wanting to scream when I asked what she wanted for dinner. She said she felt trapped in kindness, like being with me meant settling for safety over passion. And then, the line that broke me. He's never done anything wrong. That's what makes it worse. No affair. No abuse. No betrayal. I was simply not enough. Not interesting. Not sharp. Not magnetic. Just a man who made her feel like she was treading water in a calm ocean when she wanted to be pulled under by a storm. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a story about cheating. It was about erasure. She didn't want a better version of me. She wanted a version of herself that had never met me. I closed the file. Sat there in the dim light of her screen, shaking. Not from rage, but from something worse, relief. Because now I knew. There was nothing I could have done to stop this. Not one more date night. Not therapy. Not flowers or apologies for things I didn't do. She'd been leaving me long before her feet walked out the door. And now? Now I was finally allowed to let go of the man who waited at the window. Because the man she left? He never really existed. 2 days passed, and I didn't send a single message. No calls. No typing bubbles. No pathetic midnight texts about how the cat missed her or how the water heater made a weird sound. I went silent, and it drove her insane. I didn't know that at first, obviously. But on the third morning, I got an email. Not from her, from my lawyer. Apparently, someone had tried to call and pause the initial filing. I hadn't even told her I started the paperwork. She must have found out through the clerk's office. Probably called, feigning concern. It was a misunderstanding, she might have said, voice soft and teacher-like. We're just taking space. He gets emotional sometimes. I just want to help him. No one tells you this part. That sometimes the ones who leave need you to stay broken. Not because they love you, but because your sadness justifies their exit. If you fall apart, they were right to leave. If you move on, suddenly you're the monster. So I stayed silent. I went about my day like she didn't exist. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. Not well, but long. And then the message came. Just before 3 a.m. From her. The subject line blank. The body short. Hey, can we talk? Just, not about anything dramatic. I just want to hear your voice. No apology. No ownership. Just the casual entitlement of someone who always believed she could walk out of the fire and still get handed a towel and cocoa on the other side. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either, because now I had time. I had leverage, and I had an idea. It started as a joke in my head, a line I muttered out loud to no one. What if I gave her what she wanted? Not sarcastic, literal. What if I let her believe her version of events? What if I didn't chase her, or beg, or scream, or even resist? What if I simply vanished? Not dramatically, not like she did, but slowly, quietly, digitally. First, I removed myself from the streaming services. Netflix gone. HBO logged out. Spotify? Changed the password. The playlists were all mine anyway. Then the shared calendar. The synced grocery list. The joint note for things we wanted to do someday. Deleted. And finally, the location tracking app she made me install just in case something ever happened. Gone. No message. No warning. Just radio silence. And that was the first time she called. Blocked number. I didn't pick up. Didn't need to. I already knew what the voicemail would sound like. Something between confusion and condescension. So I waited. 5 hours later, another message. Okay, seriously, what is going on with you? Still no accountability. Just an edge of irritation. Like I was the child who wouldn't stop pouting. That's when I realized something terrifying and liberating. She didn't miss me. She missed being the one who left. The woman in her journal. The one who wrote poetic paragraphs about how she was outgrowing me. She needed an audience. She needed a victim. She needed a quiet, sad Henry who sat on the couch and whispered, "Please come home." But that man, he was gone now. Replaced by someone who finally, stopped waiting for an explanation that was never coming. And here's the twist. The more I pulled away, the more she reached out. Not just messages. Not just missed calls. Something else. Something I didn't expect. She showed up. In person. At the door. And this time, she was the one who looked like she'd been crying. She didn't ring the bell. She knocked. 3 soft taps. Like she didn't want the neighbors to know she was there. Like she was a teenager sneaking back in after curfew. I watched her through the peephole for nearly a full minute before opening the door. Her eyes were swollen. She didn't bother with makeup. Her hair was tied up in one of those messy knots she used to only wear on hangover Sundays. No suitcase. No flowers. Just her, clutching a coffee cup like it was armor. "Can I come in?" she asked. Voice so quiet I almost pretended not to hear. I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside. She walked in like it still belonged to her, and maybe part of it did. The walls still held her laughter. The sofa still remembered the way she curled up sideways with her feet under my thigh. But this time, she didn't sit. She stood in the middle of the living room like someone visiting a childhood home, overwhelmed by the weight of familiar things. "I was in the area," she said. I almost laughed, but I didn't. "I got your messages," I said instead. She looked up sharply, like she'd forgotten she sent them. "I didn't mean for things to go this way," she started. There it was. The opening statement. The gentle positioning of blame in the space between intentions and outcomes. "I never wanted to hurt you, Henry. You know that, right? I didn't respond. Just nodded once, neutral, unreadable. Her face flickered when she realized I wasn't going to fill in the blanks for her. She wasn't used to that. Callie was always the one who told the story and handed you your line. She sat down slowly. Finally, the same chair she always used. She folded her hands and stared at the floor. I went up to the cabin to figure things out, she said, like it was new information. You brought Jeremy. Silence. I didn't say it like an accusation. I said it like I was naming a book she'd left out on the table. I didn't need her to confirm it. I already knew. He was just, don't, I said, calmly, not cruel, just done. She stopped. There's a kind of silence that doesn't wait. It presses. And in that moment, it wrapped around her like a noose. I don't know what I thought would happen, she finally whispered. I do, I said. She looked up at me, finally really looking. There was a flicker of something behind her eyes. Fear, maybe, or confusion, or the first real crack in her carefully constructed version of the truth. You thought I'd wait. The air in the room thickened. She didn't deny it. You thought I'd sit here and cry, and when you came back, I'd be exactly where you left me. Still nothing. And maybe I would have been, I added. A year ago, 6 months ago, hell, maybe even a few weeks ago. But you know what changed? She shook her head, eyes wet now. You left me in a burning house and expected me to stand still. She blinked. Tears rolled. I didn't move. She reached for her cup, found it empty, then just held it like it was the only thing anchoring her to the floor. Henry, I didn't love him, she said suddenly. That's not what this was. I tilted my head. Then what was it? She opened her mouth, closed it, looked down. I needed to feel like I mattered. Those words. So simple, so raw, and finally true. But it was too late. Do you know what you left behind? I asked. Me. The version of me who still believed you were trying. The one who forgave too fast. Who filled in all your silences with hope. Her lip trembled. Can we start over? That was the moment I realized something terrifying. She meant it. She actually believed we could reset everything. As if pain could be undone with time and proximity. As if memory was soft enough to reshape. And for a second, just one, I wanted to say yes. But I looked at her, really looked, and I saw it. Not guilt, not grief, just panic. Because I had stopped being hers. She stayed for 23 minutes. I didn't time it. I just know, because when she left, the microwave clock blinked 2:17. It was 1:54 when I let her in. She stood in the hallway for a while after I stopped talking, like she was waiting for me to say the things she wanted to hear. Some variation of, it's okay, or, I miss you too, or even just, I still love you. But I didn't. Not because I wanted to hurt her. I didn't. I'm not built for revenge. That's not how I'm wired. I didn't say anything because there was nothing left to say. She finally stepped toward the door. Still slow, still looking back every couple steps, like she thought maybe I'd change my mind at the last second and call her back. Like I'd rewind the tape and let her walk back into the old version of our life. But the man who used to live in that version, he was gone. She paused at the door, hand on the knob, and turned to me one last time. I just wish things had been different, she whispered. And for the first time since she left, I smiled. Me too. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't sarcastic. It was real. Because I did wish things had been different, not so that she'd stayed, but so that I'd seen myself sooner. So that I would have known how much space I gave up just to keep the illusion going. So I could have realized that love shouldn't feel like being tolerated. She nodded. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to memorize it, or maybe prove to herself that she still recognized it. Then she left, and I let the door close behind her. No dramatic music, no slow-motion regret, just the quiet click of a life finally shifting forward. I sat on the couch for a while afterward, not sad, not numb, just still. And for the first time in months, maybe years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It didn't ache. It felt like mine. I ordered pizza. I watched something dumb. I let the cat curl up beside me without thinking about how I'd tell her later that he missed her. And somewhere around midnight, I realized I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't waiting for her to come back. I wasn't waiting to feel whole. Because maybe, just maybe, I already was. And you know what? That's when I started to feel free.